Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of flotation yoga. I want everyone to start with some deep deprivation inhalations. Just relax into nothingness. Good. Now, bend slowly at the waist and go down into a relaxed, salty dog position. Still taking those deep deprivation inhalations. And then we're going to roll over onto the side and transition into buoyant baby. Make sure to really get that salty stretch in there too. That's right. Good. And then up again towards your knees and out to pitch black crow. Deep deprivation inhalations. Good. It's important to practice Voidpasana whenever possible. All right. Welcome, everybody, to our podcast.
Thank you for joining us.
I am Graham.
I am Jake.
First, I thought you were going to say I am Ashkahn. I'm like so used to
thought
hearing
about
that.
it.
Okay, all right. So today's question is, what about spray-in insulation? My contractor recommended it for the building I'm moving into, which is on the older side.
The building is on the older side.
I assume not the spray-in insulation or the contractor.
Yeah, I know. And what's with this insulation? All right, so I guess we're talking about like on-site spray-in, like polyurethane, like foam insulation.
Yeah, so I guess first of all, you can spray almost anything.
Yeah, like
right?
you can do blow-in of like
denim.
Roxol or like rock wool, like denim. Yeah, bad idea for a float center. Anything
Terrible
porous.
idea for a float
Like
center,
don't blow in cellulose. Like don't do those things. It just wicks moisture. If you are gonna do blow-in, like if you have like little crevices and stuff like that, stick to the stone wool blow-in and stuff like that.
So yeah, let's assume that, I mean, obviously they're probably insulating it for, thermal barrier.
Yeah, it's an older building. They're drafty. I bet that's what they're talking about. I think that's what they're talking about.
Lots of weird joists.
Yeah,
and stuff.
actually,
Just like weird little
old conduits.
areas where if you're trying to use something that isn't spray-in, it's going to take a ton of time to
because
cut out everything.
You got to get it efficient. Like you don't want any gaps, basically, like a 2% gap, 20% heat loss. So everything should be form fit to your area. And if they're doing bats and there's a lot of little nooks, that's going to be labor intensive.
Yeah, they're either really hard or impossible or just incredibly expensive.
So what some people do with older buildings, or single-story buildings where like the top is, it's a hot place or something like that, they will do an on-site application of a polyurethane foam insulation, basically spraying that into the joist bays, and it expands. And then it also like tightens up the structure as well. Like it does serve to tighten up the structure because it expands into every little nook and cranny, which means you're getting less permeability, less air moving from within the space and then from the outside of the space as well. We do have a distinction here, though, open cell versus closed cell polyurethane on-site application foam sprays.
Right, and I was going to say, it's actually the closed cell that does more of the tightening up the structure,
It does,
right?
yeah, it
like
does.
That's kind of more of the structural
Yeah,
insulation.
it's tighter, it blocks more moisture. It's actually kind of like what we recommend for float centers. So open cell is a little bit better at blocking out noise.
And just to back up a little bit, you could almost guess what this means with open cell versus closed cell insulation,
right.
But it's basically just the open cell has kind of expanded.
Fractures.
Yeah. It's expanded. There's little kind of air bubbles in there. Like it's an open kind of structure.
Yeah, air bubbles that have popped. So like part circle and then part gash and like real porous. It's good for thermal resistance and everything like that.
Good for soundproofing.
Yeah, good for soundproofing. The problem for us and some southern humid states is that moisture will pass through it and then get stuck on the substrate. So moisture will pass through the insulation and then get stuck on the underside of your roof or get stuck on the underside of, whatever. And that's a problem for float centers. So we definitely say stick to the closed cell. And the closed cell, those bubbles just don't pop They're still expanding, those gases inside there, but it's just, it's a thick, solid layer, so moisture can't really pass through there.
Which means it's not going to do as good job soundproofing because it'll just be kind of rigid and transmit a lot of the vibrational noise. But it does do a much better job solidifying your structure because now you have this very tight, solid spray-in that
Everything's
you're doing.
trade-offs, right? It's all trade-offs.
Yeah.
So.
But specifically for a float center, we kind of don't even get to think about the trade-offs on the good side for open cell insulation. It's so humid. The chances that you're going to get mold when you do open cell spray and insulation are just too high.
Just
it's
too
like,
great
why
for
risk it?
Yeah. And this is something that you hire a talented contractor to do. One, because again, you don't want them to do poorly. And two, like the stuff is pretty bad for your health. You don't really want to be in the space when people are doing
they go
it.
like full, it's almost like hazmat suits.
Oh yeah, for sure. Your respirators.
Your entire building is kind of also in a hazmat suit because if that settles anywhere, it really sticks to it.
Good reason to be in good communication with your contractor, your general, just making sure that you're not showing up right after that happened.
Yeah, it would be terrible, for example, if you accidentally blew expanding foam over into your neighbor's space while they were giving a haircut or something like that. Not that we'd know anything about it.
Yeah, and then the foam got all over their fancy vest and their hat, and then we had to buy that for them.
Yeah, that'd be terrible. You definitely should really be careful with the contractors.
I will say that hole no longer exists. For what it's worth.
It's true. Yeah, no, we discovered some more places we could tighten up our own construction as a result of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so spray and insulation totally makes sense.
Yep.
You were talking about closed cell spray and insulation.
And when we're saying spraying, usually on exterior walls or ceilings, you know what I mean? Like we don't see that a lot in between float rooms, you know what I mean?
Good point. Yeah, I was also assuming that it was going to be on the ceiling.
Right?
And,
So I'm always making these assumptions, and I'm like, wait a minute, is everyone on the same...
So yeah, and the exterior wall, of course, is just a little more important for this stuff because you have the entire environment out there.
Yeah.
So the amount of...
You got a conditioned space, you have an unconditioned space.
Yeah, so getting that barrier and getting some kind of insulation up is really critical. Older buildings might not have, if they did have good insulation at one point, it's almost certainly gone, and they might not have had it to begin with.
Yeah, and we've seen people that have skimped on some things, like they've cut back a little bit on that exterior insulation, and then, or not on the outside of the building, but those exterior walls, and that's where you see moisture damage. That's where you see peeling. That's where you see panels delaminating from the wall. They're like, every wall is fine except for this wall. And it's like, well, it's your exterior wall. Like, you should have figured that out. You should have insulated that a little better. You got 2 more inches in the room, but now you're dealing with this constant problem.
So yeah, no, it makes total sense to me. I think your contractor's recommendation is without looking deeply at the plans and your actual building, definitely makes sense. Like I can understand why a contractor would recommend spray and insulation. Maybe mention to them that you'd like closed cell if they weren't planning on it.
Definitely mention to them.
Yeah, if they know it's a humid environment and all the details of your float center, they're probably already planning on that anyway.
Sure to be hip to it, though. Just check, no matter what.
Always check, yeah.
Yeah, always check. And on the very likely chance that we're wrong, and you were talking about you wanted to blow in some denim, don't.
Yeah, don't.
Don't do it.
Yeah, for the same reason but even more so that you don't want the open cell insulation, which is just anything that can collect that moisture, anything that's permeable at all. It's just you're
food
asking
for mold or mildew.
Yeah, you're asking.
That's another
for
whole
issues.
thing. You know what I mean? The polyurethane, no food, no mold, no mildew. So. All right, cool. Yeah? All right, thanks for submitting that question. Really appreciate it. Long question, short answer. Sorry for that. But if you guys have more questions for us, please send those in at floatanksolutions.com/podcast. And thanks for spending this time for us today. All right, so back to yoga.
Goodbye, everyone.